Brother Ocasio G. Tonight we are blessed to have with us Brother Ocasio G. And we are also blessed to have Brother Corey Bolton with us as our guest. Tonight's topic and subject we're going to be tackling is where is the black man? That's going to be our question that we're talking about tonight. Where is the black man? And, we've broken things down into a few different topic areas. And I just want to go over the topic areas before I turn it over to our state director and our guests, Brother Corey, so they can introduce themselves. So our subtopics here, we're going to be dealing with this thing in terms of identity and perception, brotherhood and accountability, mental health and emotional wellness, community leadership, growth and legacy, and then we'll discuss our call to action. So without further ado, let me turn things over to our guests so that they can introduce themselves, starting with our state director. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, and thank you all for having me. Again, my name is Ocasio G. I'm the state director for Phi Beta Sigma. I'm a Spring '98 initiate of the Omicron Iota chapter at Old Dominion University, and now I have the pleasure of serving the brothers of the state of Virginia, and just really making sure that what we are talking about tonight and topics like this are forefront of everything we do. About myself, I work for Centera as a communications manager, and most importantly to me, uh, I am the husband of one, the father of two, and this is one of those things that I take truly, truly, truly serious. So thank you all for having me this evening. Looking forward to this topic.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Bolton, go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, what's going on, y'all? My name is Corey Bolton. I'm the executive director and producer of the I See You Bro Collective. We're a Hampton Roads based wellness organization dedicated to providing spaces for Black men, emotional, mental wellness, financial wellness. We cover a range of different topics. And like I said, really just creating spaces for Black men to have these conversations that, lead towards building, healing, and growing.
All right, thank you so much. So tonight's going to be a pretty good discussion, and I'm excited. So let's go ahead and jump into some of our questions that we have as we tackle where is the black man. And so this first one is going to go to you, Corey, and it's coming from the identity and perception category. And so, question is, how do black men define themselves beyond society's labels and expectations?
Yeah, man, that's a great question because I think for a lot of us it's hard to find an identity outside of the identity that we've held on to for a while. A lot of times we'll excel in our career. We can sometimes that comes of connection to our culture, and the ones that we love and areas that we grew up in and things like that. So identifying ourselves beyond society's labels, man, I think is something that we're still trying to work through. And I think having conversations like these tonight, are going to be some of those building blocks towards redefining identity, kind of breaking out old norms and customs, and stepping into this new generation that we're coming into.
Thank you so much. That's a really, really powerful answer that you gave. Um, State Director, brother G, what's your thoughts on that question? How do black men define themselves beyond society's labels and expectations?
I truly love this question. I mean, I look at my own personal journey. I'm a Virginia Beach kid, so Virginia Beach, is a true melting pot, true diversity. But it's not diverse everywhere. Um, I had the pleasure of going to like Virginia Beach Junior High School. I'm that old that it was still junior high school when I went there, and I'm hanging out with SCA kids who all live in the upper streets. So I speak differently. Well, I speak more like them. I listen to some of the same music they listen to. But then at the same time, I'm playing basketball with cats who are from SeaTac and Friendship and all up and down Burneck Road. So those are my family at the same time. So how was I identified? And that was really how society was putting it. But then when it comes down to like how do we define ourselves, it's hard because it isn't about labels. And that's one of the things that's beautiful about our culture and about being a black man is it's not just about those labels. It's about the struggle. It's about the journey. It's about the history that has shaped us to be who we are today. So the labels are going to be there, but it doesn't change like what we look like, what we feel like, and how we're dealt with when we're in society. So it's defining ourselves by our shared cultural backgrounds, our shared cultural paths, and the futures that we're trying to build.
I think that's a very, very powerful answer and response, making sure that as Black men, we understand that we don't have to necessarily go by the written label or the expectations of others and not allowing culture to define us. We get to define who we are. And sometimes we have to do that amongst the norms, amongst the stereotypes, which leads me into my next question. In what ways do stereotypes still shape the lived experiences of Black men today? What say you?
I mean, I guess I'll start first on this one, and following up on my last question, it those stereotypes kind of you especially think about yourself pre-manhood, like when you're still trying to figure out who you are. That's when it becomes both constructive and destructive because at times I'll change up how I'm talking so I can fit in better with honestly with our people, with people who look more like me because maybe I'm speaking a little too proper or the music I'm listening to isn't what they're listening to. So I try to fit in with that, and even the bros now give me a hard time. But you know what? I've gotten to that point where I'm confident in that. So with those stereotypes shaping who I am or shaping who I was as a young man, it was much more difficult than where I am today because now I am who I am. Like it or love it, it don't matter to me. My ego's big enough that I know I'm going to be all right. But at the same time, it's hard for those generations coming behind us. Look at my son who's 13. I think I've owned one pair of Jordans in my life, and he has like seven pair because that's where his mindset is. He wants to have those Jordans. I was rocking Vans when I was his age. I was on my skateboard during the day. So it's really about as a man, you have to be a man, you have to not be as affected by the stereotype, but it's as the youth growing into a man where those stereotypes become destructive and so influential. I mean, I'll toss it over to you, Corey, see where you think about it. Oh, you're on mute, Corey.
Yeah, yeah. One of the last words that you used, man, was like influential. Um, so if we're talking about stereotypes and how they're still kind of shaping our identities and experiences, man, like that's something that I feel like is still being shaped by some of those old stereotypes, man. I'm thinking about street culture. I'm thinking about sex culture. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking about even the career choices, the fields that we decide to go into, the professions. I'm thinking about sports. Like a lot of these things are ideals that we've held on to, from the 90s, honestly. You know what I'm saying? And I work easily as uh, a lot of brothers on this call right now are in that school system, so we get to see firsthand just what is being passed down from previous generations. Like I'm seeing kids emulating something that they have had no experience with, like absolutely none. And where's that influence coming from? Where's that identity coming from? It's coming from the a perpetuation of an identity that we assumed. I think we saw some old 90s hood classics, man, and we've been living in those ever since, man. Juice, Minister Society, you know what I'm saying? Like we've just been kind of stuck in this ideal, man, because and just reflecting on that, like, at one point they seemed like hood heroes. Like I can see where the influence to want to be like those characters came from. And at that time, it felt like that was the way to get out. That was the way to achieve or to obtain the things that, we wanted, but were so blocked and removed from, right? But that's not the world that we live in anymore. And we're still kind of like acting as if like there's no other options for us but those outlets. Yeah, I'm trying to keep it locked into just what, because I'll probably go on a tangent on that one, man. But just in short, man, in summation, I'll just say, man, we have a lot of stereotypes that I think it's time to kind of break away from, and it's gonna take some reflection. It's gonna take some growing pains. It's gonna take a lot of like hard conversations. It's gonna take a lot of, yeah, we have to move on.
I hear that, and I sure enough do appreciate both of you all's answers. As I was listening, I heard Brother G, I heard you talking about fatherhood, and Corey, I heard you mention what's going on in the school system and what people see around them in different conversations. I think these conversations, whether it be with a neighbor or a student or a son, kind of reminds me of mentorship. So my next question actually falls up under our brotherhood and accountability section. And so, what roles does mentorship play in shaping the next generation of Black men? Corey, let's start with you.
Yeah, man, mentorship I think is most important, but there has to be a need to want it. Um Again, going back to the school system, man, it's a lot of kids that you try to reach and you kind of see and I'm gonna just be real, man. A lot of them are just so far gone. It feels like you really can't. Like they're gonna need something much deeper than what you can provide in that little bit of time. So sometimes it's like having to be okay with not being able to save everybody. But I think for as far as like mentorship, having examples, like having good strong men that you can see and that you can touch and that you can talk to, even if you're not even if you're not having a one-on-one impact with that child, just being able to see the image of a good strong man, I think is mentorship enough in a lot of cases for some kids that aren't quite ready to have those conversations, or maybe not mature enough to understand the things that you're trying to tell them. They're depending on what age level we're speaking on, man. Like they're still figuring out life. Like a lot of things are still shifting and changing. They're learning bits and pieces of reality. So getting in at a good time and being able to drop some seeds of knowledge that can take them and help them kind of transgress through whatever period that they're going through, man. What, like I said, whether it's a one-on-one conversation or it's just your presence, just the identity of you, just the presence of you being there, I think is impactful.
I appreciate that. That's a really really good answer. Thank you for the insight, Brother G. What do you have on that?
So I'm going to take it in a slightly different way because I think we are doing well with mentorship. I think we put so much energy and focus on mentorship that we're missing the next step of it, which is sponsorship. So I look at my circle. I mean, I'm 40. What am I? 47. So I can't remember how old I am. And there's a lot of my peers who we're at similar levels, and they're in some of the similar rooms as me, but they may be in those rooms when I'm not there. So how are they
Mhm.
speaking of me? Are they bringing me up when I'm not in those rooms? Are they putting me in that place? Whereas it's not they're teaching me, they're not mentoring me, they're sponsoring me. They're putting my name out there as like, hey, this is who you need to talk to. Like because mentorship's going to get you but so high. But when there's a lot of us who I don't want to say we've made it, but we're not at entry level anymore. We're a little bit further in our careers where we need that sponsorship. So like as you mentor, like the mentoring, even I still have a mentor in my age, but I need it's a sponsorship is where I'm looking for. And I think, but then I'll go back to your true question where as you talk about mentorship, I think that we focus so much on formal mentorship that sometimes it's just being an example, being a mentor as we walk down the street, showing them the way they should be. Like how are we carrying ourselves? Are we opening doors for women? Are we cursing in front of women and children? Some of those things that may seem old fashioned, but they're watching. Like we may not be telling them to watch us. They're seeing our every action. And so it's mentoring outside of the formality that we really have to be careful about and make sure that we're holding ourselves accountable and to that standard that we expect them to be. Because if they see us cutting up, doing things, it's okay to do those things in certain places, but they're going to want to emulate that. And I mean, to your point earlier, Corey, you know, maybe I wanted to be like somebody like G Money on Juice or something. Like I saw what they were doing. I was like, okay, maybe it was cool to me because that's what they were seeing. And then when I was hanging around certain areas, I was seeing the way the dudes was hanging out there. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's what I want to see. But there's that mentorship that's unstated, that's critical, that really emulates where they want to be, and then they'll see that. And when they see that without you telling them, by just you showing them, it puts it in a different place. It's not a lesson. It's not a lesson like in school, but it's a lesson like in their hearts for them to grow.
I appreciate that. Thank you for giving voice to the difference between mentorship and sponsorship. I think a lot of people may stay in the mentorship room so long that they can't break the ceiling of loyalty above them, and that they don't have anyone that's going to take them to the next level. I always say that experiences don't necessarily care how old you are or what you look like. Your experiences come when they come. And so as soon as they come and you feel as if they are worthy of sharing with somebody else, that's sponsorship. And I really appreciate you talking about that. I think in our fraternity, in our organizations, we do mentorship well and we do sponsorship well. So my question, I'm going to start this question with our state director, and then we'll go to you, Corey, so that you can speak on it from in terms of your podcast and the service that you provide. How can organizations like Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, as well as I See You Brother, can hold Black men accountable while still offering support? And I want to preface this question because we do want to mentor, we do want to sponsor, we do want to support, but we cannot forget about the accountability side. So how do we do that as organizations? Starting with you, State Director.
Yeah, so it's interesting that accountability always becomes an issue within our community because sometimes that no snitch culture goes too far. That we also don't want to say something to someone. We don't want to correct someone. We don't want to hurt their feelings. But if you're a grown man, you're gonna take it and you're gonna suck it up and you can get better from it. And we have to do that. You know the saying, "Am I my brother's keeper?" Well, that goes within the fraternity. That goes outside of the fraternity. Goes within our communities. So within Sigma, we have to have tough love with our brothers. I mean, I love my chapter brothers. I love my brothers throughout the state. Perfect example. Me and our chapter president will argue tooth and nail because we're passionate. But then we will come together and do that work because we love one another as brothers. And then if it's something where we're out of pocket, we know enough to take each other to the side and correct one another and grow from it. I mean, it's one of those sayings that feedback is a gift, but all feedback isn't a gift. Some feedback is just meant to hurt you. So it's being man enough to one accept that feedback, but then man enough to give feedback in a way that's productive. So that accountability, it comes with the voice. Like to hold someone accountable, you can't hold someone accountable with your mouth shut. You got to talk to them. You got to tell them the truth and the reality. And if their feelings get hurt, maybe their feelings get hurt, and one day they'll realize that you were right. But none of us are perfect, so all of us should expect it, none the same or nonetheless. So that accountability is a two-way street. I'm gonna hold you accountable. I want you to hold me accountable. Not just personally, but professionally. If there was something with I see you, bro, and I was like, yo, that's dope, but they could do this better. It's me to hold them accountable and say, yo, here's how y'all could build on this, how y'all could be better. And I would love the same for us. Like if I see you, bro, said, yo, Sigma, y'all doing a little too much of this, not enough of this, let us know. Because if we can't see it, lenses and blinders, everyone has a different perspective on everything they see. Someone from outside that's not within that circle can give you that accountability and that perspective that you won't see. So no, I respect accountability. It doesn't always feel good, but I would love to hear what Corey thinks about accountability from the non-Greek side and with your nonprofit.
Yeah, no, I think what we're doing right now is an example of that, man. Like a cross organizational conversation, like we said, kind of in the beginning, just building bridges, or at least some of the building blocks to have the conversations. And I go back to an earlier answer that G gave too, man. Like just being examples in the community. I think that's going to be one of the largest impacts that we can have on one another and holding each other accountable. Given the title of like what this discussion is, like where's the black man in today's society, man? Like a lot of us are silent, a lot of us are muzzled, a lot of us are not really living and walking in the power that we possess. It's a lot of brothers that you would never guess had the mind that they did without kind of breaking down some walls and getting to having a real conversation. Then you're like, oh, okay, I see what kind of time you on. Like you get it, you understand, like this is how you're moving. But I understand historically a lot of times we have to kind of move in silence because there's not a lot of people that one we can have those conversations with, or that the conversations resonate with. Survival, if you too loud sometimes they'll chop you down, so I get those parts. But yeah, we just have to live in the examples that we're trying to create. When we see one another speaking, a simple what's up, you know what I mean, like a simple nod, a piece or something, you know what I mean. Like we're so heavily focused on like this bravado image, you know what I'm saying, when we pass one another, man. Like we're afraid to be vulnerable, we're afraid to say hi. Like that brother probably going through the same things that you dealing with, you know what I'm saying, and like that simple hello would just be that little bit of support that he may need to, like, kind of roll his shoulders back a little bit. You get what
Preach,
I'm
brother,
saying?
preach. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, just being living examples. That's literally it. Like it's brothers, you know, one thing I appreciate so much about, fraternities, and especially like the Sigmas, man, like getting a chance to meet a lot of you all. Like, man, y'all are some powerful, educated, determined brothers. Every single one that I met, man, talking to Steve, man, like he knows somebody in every single industry. You know what I mean? Like he has somebody for everything. Like you need anything, Steve got the guy for it, and it's all within his chapter, all within his fraternity. So it's like let's use that network of education, of professionalism, of maturity, of everything else that comes with what you guys represent, man, and just keep spreading that out and keep living and keep reacting and interacting with brothers and kind of having that exchange of knowledge and information and all those things like that. So again, I'm trying to keep it short, but there's so many things I want to say because there's not a lot of opportunities to have these conversations, man. So it's like, yeah,
it's all good.
yeah,
It's that's what makes it amazing. That's what makes these things go well. For the audience that's listening out there, if you got a question, go ahead and pop it in the chat, and we'll make sure that we share your question with our guests that we have with us this afternoon, or excuse me, this evening. Hey, but before we move any further, hey Corey, do you have a MOCA event or anything like that coming up that you want to go ahead and just make sure you put a plug in before we leave tonight? Share that with everybody. And Corey, I want to also kind of touch bases too. Just listening to you talk, and you were saying something about speaking to the next brother because you don't know what that brother is dealing with, or making sure that we let our guard down. That's a good segue into this question right here. Why is vulnerability still difficult for many black men, and how can we change that narrative? Why is
yeah,
vulnerability still difficult?
yeah. You want me to take that one first?
Yeah, you go ahead and go first, and put sprinkle some of your counselor dust on it, and then we'll kick it over to Op, since he threw out that he was I think what he said, he was 74 or something like that, and so we'll hear what he has to say.
Word, respect, man. Yeah. Why is it so hard? I think a lot of us are afraid um how that image will be portrayed to the whoever that we're interacting with. Being vulnerable, being showing that you need help,
Mm-hmm.
I think is the biggest barrier. Um, Traumas have been passed down, from generation. It was a time probably, our grandparents and their grandparents where like truly showing weakness could be life or death. Um, Showing weakness could keep you from achieving or excelling or progressing in your life. Showing weakness, uh, just weakness itself is trauma to a lot of people because they probably can remember a time where they had no defense. Like their weakness was forced upon them. You know what I mean? They had to submit to something that they really didn't want to submit to. So then it's like, all right, I never want to be back or go back to feeling the way that I did. I never want to go back to that vulnerability that I had. So now you put on this, this image of, a forced, a fake masculinity in a sense, a fake toughness. So that trauma passed down to his son and then his son and his son. So we just kind of grow up in this idea of only being tough because what does weakness do for us? Like how does weakness affect us? So um, yeah, yeah, I'll stop there. Yeah, I'll go
Well,
there.
before we kick it over to Ak, I think you make a good point when you bring up generational trauma.
Mm,
And then I think on the other side of that, we have some folks that may not have experienced their own trauma, but they may still be living out the trauma of a parent. And so when trauma does finally come, they have been trained to respond to those type of events in a certain way. And I'll say this term, you got post traumatic stress disorder, and post traumatic stress disorder is not something that only takes place within the context of war. It can take place outside of the context of war. And I think it's just very beneficial for us to keep our minds girded up in a way where we know that that can happen to any one of us, and oftentimes has happened to a lot of us, so that we can remain sensitive to help folks be vulnerable. What's your response to why is vulnerability still difficult for Black men?
I got two streets for this one. One is the point you were making. Um, a lot of us were raised to be hard. Don't cry, shake that off. Like, walk it off. It don't hurt, but my leg is broken. No, just walk it off. You know what I'm saying? Like that was the way we were taught. Like to be a man, you don't show those emotions. I mean, I came up in a military household. I joined the military myself. So, that's not what we're gonna do. Like we're gonna push ourselves. And I'm the oldest, so like I had to be stoic. I had to be direct. I had to be like just solid throughout it. And then the other part that I think is interesting is, and I love our sisters, but as a nerd growing up, they didn't like nerds. They like the thugs. They like the bad boys. So the bad boys had that image and that bravado, that toxic masculinity. So sometimes I'm like, yo, I want to get the girls, so I gotta act more like that. So it's funny, but then as you get older, nerds, we run this world at this point. We doing all right. We doing all right. But I think between those two items, you really see this continued toxic masculinity. You see this difficulty talking and expressing yourself. I think it's been a blessing. That's one of the things in the fraternity. Even within the fraternity, it's not something that comes natural. But I have my little circle of brothers that I bond with. Like we didn't know each other all beforehand. We didn't all come through at the same school or anything like that. But we'll talk and we'll just have straight up serious conversations. Like like man, I'm not feeling good. Like not and I'm not talking about like sick, but like my spirit's not where it needs to be right now. Like I'm not feeling I'm not feeling fulfilled. I don't feel like I'm being the best I can be. And we just have those conversations that, as a young man, it's not something I would have done. Like me 10 years ago, I wouldn't have done that. I mean, we don't seek counseling. We like there's so many things that we just try to hold inside. And the definition of a man means you're gonna handle it on your own. But sometimes you can't handle it on your own. You need a support system. You need a counselor. You need someone that you can talk to and that understands. And just having that support, like me and my fellas, like when we walk to each other, we give hugs. You know what I'm saying? We don't do the fraternity grip. We might do a little something, but then we hug because we love each other. This is my boys. This is my squad, and I know they're going to be there for me no matter what. So being able to let it down, let the wall down a little bit goes so far and makes me just a little bit more at ease. We don't always have to carry it all on our shoulders. And when I'm with that circle, when I'm with those brothers that I really truly care about, it makes my life easier, but that's not the norm. And it's so often many of us don't have someone. We don't have a circle. We don't have a tribe that we can talk to. And that's how we raise our young men. Like we raise our young men. You'll be hard. Like we still miss that generational training, that mentorship to be vulnerable and not have to put it all on your shoulders.
Yeah. On that note, too, man, like I don't think anybody ever really told us that some of the parts that we learned growing up, weren't okay. You know what I mean? Like we just kind of grew up, like it is what it is. So, it's hard being vulnerable because like a lot of us don't know what to do next. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
Like we may could recognize, okay, all right, maybe that wasn't so as accurate as they made it out to be. But what now? I'm 30 plus. I'm 20. You know what I'm saying? So like, what do I do now? How do I go back and retrace those steps? So and without a lot of spaces for men to kind of have that opportunity to do so, you really kind of get stuck in it. So it's just like, well, it is what it is, man. Life goes on. So
I hear that, and it is tough out there. And I would advise our audience to make sure that you link in with some therapy if you need therapy. Even if you think you don't need therapy, just go. Just do a couple of sessions. Submit what you have to submit, and listen, and get a difference of opinion on whatever it is you're dealing with. So, Corey, kind of talk to us about one of your events that you have coming up called the Pursuit of Happiness. What's going on with that? I think that'll be a good um, insertion for you to give.
yeah, so yeah, on May 14th, anybody that is local, I see you, bro. We're holding a conversation at the Virginia Mocha. That's the Museum of Contemporary Arts. We're having a conversation about one of the artists that is currently being exhibited there. Her name is Nina Chanel Abney from Chicago. Really, really dope artist, abstract. She tackles a lot of like societal, things that a lot of what we're kind of talking about today, man, she kind of tackles and puts in her work. So what we'll be doing is having a conversation about some of those themes that are within her work and how they attach to, our lived experience as Black men. So it's like an artist talk plus a podcast plus a town hall meeting, all kind of tied into one, man. Breaking down, like I said, a lot of those themes and giving our perspective, breaking down the art of like what we see in it, what it draws out in us. So really just a dope conversation. We have two major local artists, man, Hampton Boyer and Dathan Kane, that are going to be joining us in the conversation. My man Chef Ty, he's the head or executive chef at Steel Eclectics Tapas in downtown Portsmouth. Amazing, amazing food. Very, very skilled, detailed brother, man. He's on his way to get that Michelin star soon, man. So he's gonna be curating the food. We got Hot Gumbo Brass Band playing some tunes. It's gonna be a great vibe, man. Food, drinks, and great conversation, man. Talking about art and the intersection between art and culture.
All right, then I appreciate that. And if you all Before we leave tonight, we'll make sure that Corey gives some of his information so you can contact him to find out more information on this event. We do have a comment from one of our followers, and it reads, "As Black men, I feel society doesn't value nor want to accept that we actually have feelings or are worthy of being real." Again, I'll read it so our guests can kind of respond to that. As Black men, I feel society doesn't value nor want to accept that we actually have feelings or are worthy of being real. What's your take on that? Let's validate this, brother. This is our opportunity to do what we were just talking about. Let's do it.
Yeah, no, I think he's absolutely correct. I mean, they don't. Our voices going back to the title, man, where are we? Our voices aren't really being heard. Um, but the irony of that is our bodies are. You're gonna tune into that game, you're gonna turn on that record, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna listen to the music, you're gonna cheer for us when we're, putting on for your team and doing things like that, man. But when it comes to thoughts, emotions, feelings, traumas, whatever, they ain't trying to hear that. You know what I'm saying? They're quick to slap a label on you, or you're crazy, or you're whatever, sensitive, weak, whatever the case is, man. Like, yeah, no, there aren't really many spaces for us to voice our feelings and emotions and opinions. Even nobody, when it comes to societal changes, man. I'm gonna try not to get too political, but when it comes to society, man, like they're not really accounting for the Black man. They're not really accounting for like what they don't ping us to think or to hear what we want to say, what we have to say, what do we think about something. Our minds are not valued, so I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you too. It's funny, and I want to watch how I'm saying these things, but our sisters are killing it right now. Like their emotional intelligence, their ability to build themselves up, build their next sister up, build those little girls up is just next level. My daughter participates in a program called ELG, Envision Lead Grow. Angela Reddick's amazing, amazing member. We actually just honored her at our regional conference. And in this program, they have a 1 week summer camp, zero cost. It's an overnight camp. The girls spend the week learning about being an entrepreneur. But it's more than just that. They're around other girls who are like-minded. They're building them all up. And they bring in all of these different speakers and just professionals who are like executives and C-suite and I become envious, which is a dangerous word. It's a sin to be envious because we aren't doing that for our young men. We aren't giving them this opportunity to be vulnerable. We That's why I'm so impressed with I See You, bro, because that is what you guys are doing. That you guys are making a space where it's safe for us to talk about our feelings. But for everyone I see you, bro, there's 5 or 6 for the women, Black women. We got to catch up. We got to do more. We got to. I mean, tonight, as you said, tonight's a perfect example. We're bringing two men groups together and trying to amplify this message. And we have to do this more because we we will still not be able to be vulnerable if we don't get the message to that next generation and the current generation and the past generation, the ones who taught us how to do this wrong. We're not done with them yet. We can still help them and build with them because there's so much trauma. There's so much they need to get out as well while they're still walking this earth. So it's such a true statement. And you said don't be political. I mean, you can't help but be political these days because they want to put us back where we were 40, 50, 60 years ago. I mean, taking away our ability to vote, taking away our so many of our rights, that things that have empowered us and tried to level the playing field, which still isn't leveled. So we need this time now to come together to build our emotional intelligence, to be able to be vulnerable. Because in order to by being vulnerable, you're more likely to succeed, more likely to just live. And that's sad that we just got to live first before we can even get to the part of succeeding. So that vulnerability is difficult. I mean, it's going to be difficult. I mean, I look back at the question. Vulnerability is difficult. And it's not just about society, it's about just ourselves. It's not what we're taught to do. It's not our nature, but it should be. We have to build a nature of nurture in order to continue growing our brothers.
That's deep. That's really deep, and that's well said. And I like how you talked about building a nature. And you talked about nature and you talked about nurture. And that kind of brings me back to some sociology roots there. And as we were talking, it kind of popped in my mind. He's right. Why aren't we doing that? Why is it hard to galvanize black men? And I think it has a lot to do with our identity. I think it has a lot to do with how we present in the world. I am supposed to be the head and not the tail. We preach that in sermons. Men are given certain tasks and given certain appointments. And so we get stuck with that. And I think it's hard for us to function as a team member when we're so focused on trying to lead the team, trying to build the team, instead of supporting what is already working. We want to duplicate it, remodel it, do something new, do our own thing, and now everybody has a point to prove. And so, I just want to encourage everybody to make sure that we remember community. And State Director, you used that term earlier, community. And so let's create a value of community in our minds here. It's fastly approaching 7:40 here, so let's kick it into gear and go ahead with a couple of more questions. Then we'll do a call to action. What responsibility does black men have to the communities that we come from? I like this question because I live in a community that I did not come from, but I have good ideas. And sometimes, depending on if you come into a tribal community, some areas are tribal more than others. And so if you didn't graduate from that school and you graduated from another school, they won't let you do anything in the community. So, what responsibility do we have to community? Let's start with Brother G. We're gonna start with you, then we'll kick it over to Corey. Come on, let's see what you got on
It's a
this.
touchy one here. So
It
I told y'all
is.
earlier, I'm from Virginia Beach. I'm a Carolina boy by birth, country as can be. I live in Portsmouth, and Portsmouth has its own community, its own vibe. And I've always been active since high school. I was on city commissions and stuff. And I got here, I was ready to put in that work. And someone pulled me to the side and said, "You ain't from here. You need to slow down. Like you're not Portsmouth, so you don't need to be trying to get in these positions and holding these roles and everything." And a lesser man would have been like, you right. Let me back up." And all that did was lit a fire under me. And I haven't stopped and I won't stop because my parents raised me to help my community no matter where my community is. When I was stationed in El Paso, Texas, I was doing community service out there when I was in the Army, stationed at Fort Bliss, just because that's who I am. Like service community is, and that's why, well, that's one of the reasons why I'm a Sigma. It's because we're all about that service, culture for service. But people in Portsmouth know me now, and they know me just because I'm out there grinding. I mean, that's my responsibility. And I will say it's unique because Portsmouth is a majority Black community. So if it's going to be us leading most of the time, whether it's the mayor, city manager, superintendent, you'll notice they're all Black. They're all, and this time they're all Black men. It just so happens. But this isn't everywhere. I look at where I'm from. I'm from the Ocean Lakes area of Virginia Beach. I mean, it's. I'm trying to remember. Is there a Black person for council there now? But they're still the minority. So they're still grinding. And I think it's important that you have to learn to lead regardless of your community. And you lead for your community regardless of your community. So you're doing it for them, even if you're in an all-white community and you're the only Black person, you still need to make it a better place if it's within your means. You have three things. You have time, you have talent, and you have treasure. You don't necessarily have to give your money, but you can give them your time, you can give them your skills and your treasure. So you need to find a way to make it better because like that's our responsibility. That's what we do. Like we have to make our communities better and make it more enjoyable for our family, for our neighbors, no matter what they look like. Like we should be leaders. We can be leaders. We will be leaders if we just do and try. I'll toss over to Brother Bolton here.
Yeah, it's a few parts, man. I want to respond to too. Because I'm not from here. I'm from Texas. I've been out here for about 4 years. So, you know, we're talking about responsibility to community. I mean, if you're a black man, you're in my community. You know what I'm saying? So no matter what part of this country or world that we're in, like, you know, we do the work that we do for us. You know what I mean? So it's not, doesn't have to be so specific to, you know, the neighborhood or whatever that you grow up in. But even on that note, you know, I think that's a concept that we also kind of carry a lot too. Like just the whole ideal about once you become successful, you got to give back, you know, to the hood, give back to your neighborhood. And, you know, it's kind of on your shoulders to build and change things, you know. But I think one, it's so much deeper than that. It's so much more to be had or that's needed than you coming back and building like a rec center or something. Um, and the pressure that we put on that successful black man to come back and then revamp everything that, you know, he really didn't have a lot to do with, you know, I think is damaging more than anything. Um, you being successful and you being a great example and kind of just, you know, leading your life in a way that is influential to the people, you know, that are in your community or in your neighborhood. Like they can point to you, they can see you and say, oh, he's from here. You know, so how you move, that's your responsibility. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's just such a tough concept, but you know, but I will say, like, it is important. Like, if you are a man on a mission, I think it is important to kind of leave that door open or to kind of allow brothers to kind of follow your lead and your path into, you know, your success, man. Don't shut the door behind you. Be that example, you know what I'm saying, and keep living. And one more negative note on that, man, is if you are going to stick around in that community and in that neighborhood, don't be a nuisance to it. You know what I'm saying? Don't don't be in there terrorizing the people. You know, if you're from the community and you staying within that community, you know, don't walk around beating your chest thinking that it's your block, it's your neighborhood, it's any of those things, man. If you're not building, if you're not creating, if you're just sitting around, you know, trying to consume everything in there, if you're trying to tear the people down in there, um, yeah, pause and then yeah, we'll go we'll go on, man.
Yeah. Like, I got really one really quick thing too, as we talk about
Yeah,
community, like and not from the geographic sense. We often see we talk about gentrification and how they're coming in and taking over our communities, which is kind of geographic. But I think that's one of our failures too. When
yeah,
we get a little something in our pocket, and we can now afford to move over into those other neighborhoods, we go there for them to tell us that we're worth it. Whereas our neighborhoods, and when these programs come in to rebuild our neighborhoods, it's them who realize the potential. They see what we ignore, and they come in and take over our neighborhoods. Where we need to start gentrifying and keeping our neighborhoods. The city wants to give us some money to make a neighborhood better, then we need to take that money. We need to be fighting to get that money and just not let it go to other people, because that's how we lose our history. That's how we lose our neighborhoods, is when they go to improve it, neighborhood improvements, and we don't participate in the improvements. We get pushed out. So that's just one other thing too. Like we have those opportunities not to be a nuisance, as you said, but to improve them, to be a credit to those communities. You know, we are short on time. Sorry,
No,
brother E. But
it's all good. I love that, man. How we're talking about community and just in our conversation, we've heard community used several times in different ways, and I think that that is important. Corey, you said earlier, if you are black, you are in my community. I love that response. I love how you're bringing up community in terms of infrastructure, and what and I know when we talk about city, people attach that to politics. Politics is more than just Republican and Democrat. It's infrastructure. I've got some really, really cool Democratic friends that are awful in conversation about infrastructure. And then I've got some on the flip side that I'd listen to them, a couple of minutes because the idea may be worth it in terms of what I believe community is as a black man, for my daughters, for my students, for my parishioners at the church, for my sailors in the Navy, you know what I mean, or whoever that I am coming in contact with. So, brothers, I do appreciate the conversation and the wisdom that you have brought to our discussion tonight. Since we're short on time, let's go ahead and kick it over into tell us a little bit about the big event that we've got coming up. We've got Summer Rain, and then after that, we'll do our call to action and we'll close it for tonight.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for this event tonight, Tori. I truly appreciate you, and appreciate having this conversation. Um, One of my pleasures is to serve as the president of the Beta Sigma Foundation. That's our nonprofit arm. That's the way we're able to give these scholarships and give these business grants and give back to the community. Our big fundraiser is coming up on June 5th. It's going to be at Assembly in Norfolk, and it's called Summer Rain. We've had it, gosh, I believe it's the fourth year, fifth year, for our annual Summer Rain, but this year is the Eclipse edition. So it's all black with a pop of color, just a little something, something just to stand out from the black. And this year we're making a tribute to Black excellence. We have one of the most amazing caterers, full catering, which is Chef Carlton. We have DJ Precise, and his team working on the soundtrack. We have Nick Giles from Legendary Mixes as our mixologist. And this isn't going to be a huge event. There's limited number of tickets. This is the key thing. We want to make this smaller this year, more intimate. But it's going to be next level. So you can get tickets right now. The you can go to betasigma1914.com, and it's listed on there. You can go to our Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube is on all of those places. And then or just summerrain.betasigma1914.com. We hope to see you all there before we sell out. It's going to be a great opportunity, and most importantly, the funds from this event will go to and it's done. We're doing this in partnership with SCU, bro. Like that's one of the great things. They introduced us to the venue, helped us get in there. And then most importantly, all the funds are going towards our programmatic thrust. None of this is going to operations or anything like that. This is all going to scholarships, our mentorship program, some of our businesses that we adopted. It's going to be a great time, and I hope to see not everyone, because we ain't gonna let everyone in, intimate small group this year. It's next level. But those of you who can attend, we hope to see you all there. And again, Corey, I definitely appreciate you jumping on here tonight, and I appreciate the invite because I wasn't even going to be here at first either, and they were like, "Come on, jump on!" And they know I'm passionate about this, so I was happy to join on here with you tonight, brother.
Yeah, man. Likewise, man. Great conversation. I hope we can honestly continue. We might have to do a part two. I know there's a lot
Yeah.
more things to be said, man. So, yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So here's the call to action question it's not just for us three to contend with tonight, but for our audience to listen to and think about over the next couple of days for or as often as you can. And it's, what is one thing that each of us can commit to doing differently when it comes to being a black man? What is something that I can do differently in terms of me being a black man? My answer to that would be to really think things through, not just for the immediate gratification, but what impact, what effect, what effect will my decision have down the line on other people? That's something that I want to commit to doing as a black man. Corey, what about you?
Yeah, man. I know your question was what is one thing, man, but I think I want to drop two if that's okay, man.
Do you
Uh,
think, bro?
so I think firstly, um, go ahead and, I mean, we alluded to it a little bit earlier, man, but go ahead and try to find that outlet for healing. Go ahead and find that men's group. Go ahead and find you a therapist. It's hard to build on a unstable foundation. You know, we get so focused on being successful and getting money and things like that, man, but we have a lot of wounds that we have not healed yet. So you can only go so far before and put so much weight before, it's gonna come crumbling down. You know what I mean? So go ahead and get that outlet to find some healing. Uh, I see you, bro, man. We're always kind of connecting with those resources, man. Doctors, therapists, things like that. Or, we can absolutely guide you to the right places to start that journey, man. But I promise you, it's probably so many things that you do in your day-to-day life that you did not realize is coming from a childhood interaction, some childhood trauma. Um, or trauma that was just passed down from you, man. So that would be first and foremost, man. Please go back, reach back, and get some healing for sure. Secondly, and I think the easiest thing to do, man, it don't cost a single dollar, man, but something again, we kind of talked about earlier, man. Just saying what's up to one another. I'm telling you, like that will create such a ripple effect. Just saying hi, what's up, peace, dap, and head nod or something to the brothers or the brother that you pass in the street. It's that welcoming and that vulnerability is truly so impactful to know that you're crossing somebody that gets you and that respects you and has a space for you, man. Like if something were to go down, if y'all in the same spot, like that brother, that's somebody that you can lean on at least. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, just in passing, man, just a simple "What's up? How's it going, brother? What's good?" Something. Speaking to one another, open up the doors, man. Being vulnerable with one another, I think is the spark into the brotherhood that we're trying to create.
I got to follow your lead. I'm gonna do two as well. And segueing off yours, completely agree on the head nod saying what's up. Smile. We don't smile enough as black men. Why do we look angry all the time? We usually some pretty good looking men. So hit them with them pearly whites. And just like let them know that we aren't angry. I mean, we may have some anger inside, some fire inside, and some passion inside, but a lot of times we are in a good place. So respect that good place when you're in it. And the second thing I'm going to do is pay more respect to my power. So when I say that, it's when I say yes to stuff, and then I later can't fulfill it, or someone's reaching out for me for some guidance or support, and I'm just overwhelmed that I won't that I'll make sure that I don't do that as much. Like understand that people are counting on me. Understand that my voice, my ability, my time, even as precious as it is, when someone's reaching out, when someone makes that gesture on their end, that little bit of just letting their walls down to ask for help, to ask for my assistance. That I if I say yes, I follow through. Or if I know that I don't have the time, just be honest and try to find someone that can. Because there's nothing worse than breaking someone's trust. When someone gives that one try and you burn them in lack of better terms, then that's gonna hurt them and scar them going forward. So just know the power that we have as individuals when someone is reaching out to us, when someone is tearing down that wall.
Amazing. Well, State Director, and Brother Bolton, man, we sure enough do appreciate you both spending time with us this evening and talking to us from a place of love and not a place of judgment. You two have certainly set the example and given us something that we all can think about in terms of moving forward and where we show up as a black man and the power that we have and the influence that we have and the impact that we can have on other people's lives. We may not all be perfect. Certainly, we are not all perfect, but we certainly all can try. And with that, to our audience, thank you so much for listening. When you play this in your car or while doing whatever it is you do, make sure you grab somebody and sit them down. Talk to your sons, talk to your uncles, and if you need to reach back, talk to your fathers. Make that connection. Talk to your brothers, and your friends. Let's keep this conversation going. Just because we log off doesn't mean it has to end. And with that said, I bid everybody a farewell. Have a great evening. Thank you so much for attending our Sigma Virtual Hour.
All right. Good night, y'all.
Bless.